Hey everyone, Cahlen here, and some folks have recommended that I add the recipe for my chocolate powder mix that I use to my website. And so basically this video is going to be the recipe video going along with that post. It's going to appear on the gear page, probably under something like consumables. So I'm going to be adding a consumables section, which I think is a good idea. Okay, so basically the idea behind this recipe, it's basically a powdered mix which you can just add water to, and it will taste like hot chocolate, and it will have nutrition, basically lots of calories, lots of different vitamins and things like that, and it will also make you feel full because it's going to bulk up as the water gets absorbed into it. And you're also there's other things that I will add to it sometimes too, including oils like avocado oil, some sodium types like potassium, magnesium, and just table salt, and also sometimes an adaptogenic mix. So I'll talk about that stuff at the end. So basically this is a recipe which I have been experimenting with for a long time. It basically changes every time I mix it up. I just ran out of my last batch, which was lasting me a couple of weeks, and now I'm making the next one. And I am changing the recipe here from spirulina to chlorella, and I'll talk about that when I get to that point. But basically this is just kind of like a starting point for you to play around with. You may want to start here and then change the ratios or add different things to make it work for you. But the idea is, at least for me, I live outside, and I want to basically be able to have a very light load in my backpack where I keep all my stuff. So if I don't need to cook, that saves me a lot of weight, right? And if I don't need to carry a lot of other bulky foods, I can carry something that's actually very compact but is essentially dehydrated because it has no water in it yet, and I just need to find a water source and add it to it, and it's ready to go. I don't need to cook, I don't need to create smoke where people could be able to smell me. It'll take a long time to do that. I have to clean it up, I have to carry all the tools, right? Cooking adds a lot of downsides to, especially when you're living outside and trying to not carry a whole lot of weight in your backpack, okay? So basically, coconut flour is the main aspect of this. Coconut flour is basically just, I think they must dehydrate. I'm not sure exactly how they make it, okay? But it's basically a powder made out of coconut. Of course, the water is taken out. They probably take out the oil too before they grind it up, but I think there's still a certain amount of oil in here, okay? So basically, I'm going to give this to you in terms of parts, right? Comparative parts. So there will be 18 parts of this, and then there will be, I think, 6 parts of chocolate, and then there will be 1 part of everything else. And the part just means any measurement whatsoever. You could use a spoon, which is what I use. You could use a measuring cup. Of course, you're going to make a lot if you use like a 1 cup measuring cup. But basically, it's just a ratio. Okay. So here's my spoon. This isn't the spoon I was looking for, but I keep a spare spoon because I lose my spoons a lot. So while I only list 1 spoon on the gear page, you may want 2 spoons. Okay, so basically I fill up this is just a jug of stuff that used to hold other powders, which I use to mix it up, and then I don't actually store it in this. I don't carry it around in this. This is just the mixing thing, okay? So basically 18 parts coconut flour. So coconut flour, it's almost like a bread, except it's going to absorb a lot of water and expand, so that's going to help with you feeling more full, okay? And also it's really good, and there's basically not really anything bad about coconut flour. Like, lots of different flours have different bad things about it. Oat flour has bad things, wheat flour has bad things. They're different things, but they have bad things. Coconut flour doesn't really have anything bad about it, okay? So 18 scoops of this. I think I counted that right. Some of you maybe counted along with me. I might have screwed it up, but it's not that important. Another thing, it will also really absorb the oil because the oil is taken out of it, so there's space for the oil. It's basically grew in a situation where oil was something that it had around it, and so it was taken away. So adding oil back in is going to be something it readily accepts, and also will make it It'll make it so the oil is easier to digest, because you generally don't want oils separated from other things. It's very hard for the body to handle that, because oils usually come mixed in with other stuff. So basically this will absorb that oil, and also a few of the other things will absorb oil. So That's the coconut flour. Next is, I have this giant bag of cocoa powder. So cocoa powder is, for me, the main reason is because it's chocolate, and chocolate tastes really good. Okay, so I'm going to do 6 parts of this. So 18 of cocoa flour, 6 parts of the cocoa. The cocoa also has kind of a stimulant. I think it's theobromine or something like that. You don't want to give this to dogs because that will, I think it's like an overdose of a stimulant, but for humans it's not really that big a deal. I've lost count. I think I did 4. I think I've done 4. Okay, here's 5, maybe, and then 6. And of course, this is one of the things that you can really play around with. I've done recipes that had a lot more cocoa, but I found that it really wasn't that necessary. Another benefit of cocoa powder is it has polyphenols in it, which are useful for you for a lot of different reasons, and especially useful for your mitochondria. So you can look that up. Okay, what next? So everything else is going to be 1 scoop. Okay, so next, I just got a new thing of chlorella. Normally, I use spirulina, but I found out that the B vitamins in spirulina aren't really the type. There's something different about them than the B vitamins that your body is used to getting, and that's not the case with chlorella. So chlorella is basically an algae. It grows in the water, and they harvest it, and it's like a plant, you know, so like vegans can eat it, but it has a lot of the similar molecular constituents. It's made up of things that maybe are kind of closer to an animal. Okay, so it's got B vitamins, it's got fats, it's got carbohydrates, it's got proteins. So basically it's a really, really, really healthy food, and it's really good for vegans because of the B vitamins. And also it helps you to detox from heavy metals, and like I said in my video maybe a month or 2 ago about how to detox from dioxins, this is one of the main ways you can detox from dioxins. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 scoop. And the one thing I'm worried about here is spirulina 1 scoop. I didn't notice the taste, but I might notice the taste of chlorella. So this is an experiment which is happening right now, right before your eyes. Okay, then I add sunflower lecithin. So lecithin is kind of like a fat, except it's an emulsifier fat. So fat and water normally don't go together. But if you add an emulsifier, then it's like a third molecule which kind of helps them come together. And your body basically needs to emulsify fat in order to absorb it. That's what your bile does. Okay, so I think it's bile, something like that. I think it's gallbladder and stuff like that. So anyways, that's what that's for. But you know, if you're going to add this ahead of time, you're going to make it easier on your body. It also is going to add choline to your diet, which is a really important thing for your neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine comes from choline. There's other benefits for choline. If you're biohacking and using things like racetams or aniracetam, phenylpiracetam, like I like to do, then you're going to need choline because you're going to be using up that stuff more. Okay, so I do 1 scoop of this. You can also use soy lecithin. It won't have such. If you use too much of sunflower lecithin, you're going to notice a not such a good taste. I don't notice it with one. Sunflower lecithin, soy lecithin doesn't have that as quickly, a bad taste, but it's soy. And, you know, lots of people don't like soy, and I think I don't like it either. I've stopped using it. Okay, so stevia is a sweetener. You need very, very small amounts to get a very strong hit, okay? So, but make sure that you're getting the pure stevia. Sometimes they will often sell this as basically mixed with another sweetener like erythritol, so it will come in a bigger bag. This same company does that, and so there will be another bag which is like 3 times as big but the same price. And people are like, what's going on here? Well, it's because the bigger bag is not pure stevia, okay? And there's nothing wrong with the erythritol that I know of, so it's not like it would be bad to use that. But basically, this isn't, the sweetener isn't adding any calories, and so I don't want it to be taking up space. It's not adding calorie or nutrients that I need, so the fact that it takes up so little space to get a lot of sweetness is a really important aspect. Now, someone did point out to me that stevia, the plant, the whole plant, has been used in the past, 1 scoop, to basically make their fertility go down if they're not trying to have kids. It's like a folk remedy or something like that. And there's a couple of studies on it, and about 50-50 going opposite directions. You know, some say yes, it does reduce like your sperm count and stuff like that, and some going no, it doesn't do anything at all, right? And so there is a risk of that, but I use such small amounts, right? One scoop, and that's going to last me, I don't know how to do I haven't done the calculations, but it's going to be many days of meals out of this. And so that seems like a pretty small exposure, okay? So that's my sense. You may not feel comfortable with that. If you're not going to do that, then I recommend maybe something like xylitol, but you're going to want to make sure you grind it so it's more powdery. It normally is pretty crystally, and therefore those crystal chunks aren't going to work so good with everything else in here, which is really powdery, okay? So next is acacia powder. And basically I started adding this because Dave Asprey, who is a biohacker which I follow, he basically came across it probably a few years ago at this point. I don't follow him too closely anymore, but it's one of the things which he started talking about and basically like, this is really a good thing to have around, okay? And basically it's a prebiotic, okay? So it's going to be food for your bacteria, which is partially what you're feeding when you're eating, and it's partially why you have emotional reactions around food, right? Because it's not just you that wants food, it's also the bacteria and other things living in your body that want them, right? So parasites and stuff like that. Some of these things you want around, like your microbiome, right? The bacteria, as long as it's a diverse population with nothing too intense, too dangerous, having basically control of a certain area, and then you can get some serious health problems. And then eating something like this would actually feed that bacteria and might make you not feel good, so keep that in mind, right? So you want to make sure you have a good balanced bacteria in your gut before you're feeding it things which is like, oh my gosh, this is so good, right? Okay, so what's next? What have I not done? Okay, so this is like the last of my psyllium husk powder. I have a new bag and I'm using a different brand. So basically my next psyllium husk powder is going to be from this brand instead of this brand. But this stuff lasts a long time because you don't need very much of it. So psyllium husk is basically fiber. And it thickens things, which is something that I'm going for here, and it makes things more bulky, okay? So again, this is helping with the feeling more full. And it also, if you want to, hopefully that's not too loud for you guys. If you want to, you can make this powder into a bread by just adding a little bit of water to it and then kneading it. And when you make bread out of coconut flour, psyllium husk is like the important thing that you need to be adding so that it holds together, right? Because wheat has the gluten to hold it together. Coconut flour will just fall apart, okay? So the psyllium husk powder will help with that. So I haven't made bread with this recipe. I haven't made bread in a long time using this. It went back to a very, very different recipe. But I was able to turn the coconut powder with the coconut flour into bread if I just felt like eating bread instead of drinking hot chocolate, okay? But of course that's a lot of work. You also have to leave it out in the solar oven. That's what I do anyway, if you want it to dry out and actually become like a bread. So that's a whole lot of extra effort when you could just add water and drink it. There was another benefit to psyllium husk powder. Let's see if I remember it. I don't remember it. Okay, but all of these things basically, except for the stevia, basically have numerous health benefits, and they have very little dangers. You know, some things some people may be allergic to, like the coconut flour. Some people are allergic to coconuts, so you'd have to of course find something else. But for the most part, this stuff is stuff that everyone can handle. And so anyways, now once I've got it all in there, I think I added everything. Yes, I did. Okay, so normally I will stir it with, so it's just this big, not very well mixed up situation in there. So I'll usually use the spoon, and then I'll alternate between using the spoon and closing the lid and just shaking it. That's pretty mixed up already. I'm going to do it with the spoon one more time. Okay, so I'm going to do the math. Okay, so I did the math. Generally, I think there's about 30 scoops of just stuff in here right now. And for a single meal of hot chocolate, I will take 6 scoops of this and put it into my canteen. So basically that's 5 meals. So if you're only having this once a day, that's 5 days of meals, right? And for me, I usually have between 1 or 2 of these a day. So next I will take my titanium water bottle, and I usually will heat it up. You can see I put it in a fire, that's why it's black, or I leave it in the solar oven. You don't have to heat it up, that's one nice thing, but of course it is nice to have your hot chocolate be hot. Okay, so I fill it up to about maybe this height, okay, or maybe a little bit higher, because you're going to be adding stuff, and also you're going to be mixing up, so you need some space for stuff to move around in there, okay? So then I'll take 6 scoops of this and pop it in there. Did I count right? Again, I always miss it. I always get distracted and bored. Okay, so next I will almost always add some avocado oil or some kind of oil, right? And ideally I would be using coconut oil or something like ghee, or grass-fed ghee. It would need to be grass-fed, which is clarified butter. But that gets solid at most temperatures, and so I opt for something which is liquid. And the 2 liquid oils which are really good for you for a lot of reasons are basically olive oil and avocado oil, okay? And they also are fairly heat resistant. Like, I don't recommend actually cooking with these things, but if the water's below boiling, you're not gonna oxidize the oil and harm it. So basically, unless it's really, really cold, because avocado oil will solidify. I think it's probably in the 20s, 20 Fahrenheit, maybe around there, something like that, which can be kind of annoying. So you have to keep in mind, if you're planning to have this, that your bottle may be frozen. It can be pretty hard to get it out. You can't put this in the fire because the plastic's gonna melt. So maybe sleep with this in your bag. So anyways, I will almost always add the oil. And then if it's morning and I want to get like I'm drinking coffee. Like, I can't drink coffee, I'm kind of allergic to coffee. But this kind of is a similar effect. This is a adaptogenic mix which I had made. There's a video on it already, so I will link to that below if you're interested in this. Basically, I'll just take a little bit, I'll put a little bit in the cap, and then I'll pour it in there. And that's gonna make me feel real good, high energy, with no come down at all. It's basically no downsides unless you have too much, and then you'll just feel kind of like a little too much energy, a little too pressured, and it can get a little bit stressful if you have a lot of it. And also you might feel tired afterwards, like at the end of the day. And then this is a mix of basically the words I'm trying to think of. It's basically, well, it's potassium, it's magnesium, it's sodium chloride, which is table salt, and it's sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, okay? So this is basically electrolytes, and I don't always feel like I need them, and I think it makes it taste, it doesn't make it taste bad, but I do prefer to drink the chocolate without this, right? There's something nice about it. It changes the flavor, something nice about it, but also if it's even a little bit too strong, it kind of gets towards being unpleasant, okay? So just a tiny little bit of this to the mix. Oop. I guess a medium amount is what we're going for here. Okay, then I put the lid on. And inside of this water bottle, I also bought a spool of titanium wire, and I wound it in a way so it starts small on the bottom, and then it winds and goes up this way and gets thicker, wider towards the middle, and at the middle it's the widest, and then it goes back down to a point again. Okay, so it's like a little circle, but it's really just a winding of titanium wire. And then I make it a little bit too big for the lid, so that once it's in there, it's not going to come out, but then I can kind of twist it to make it smaller temporarily, and it's going to re-expand to where it was once it's fallen into the bottle. Okay, so there is a whisk in this bottle which is helping me to mix it up and get everything off the sides and off the top. It likes to get stuck up here. So giving it a good mix also gives everything the chance to absorb and start to kind of combine with each other. Okay, so leaving it for 5 to 10 minutes kind of makes it more pleasant in a way. So, and also gives you more of that I'm full type feeling. So anyways, let's mix this up. It's like the shake weight. And I'm not going to wait the 5 minutes because it's not really that big a deal. And it likes to splurt. I just splurted my phone. Okay, so this is to see if the chlorella makes it taste bad. So we'll find out. I would say almost no difference. I can taste the chlorella, but it's so light it's barely noticeable, and it's not even that bad. Okay, it's a little bit of a seaweedy taste, which I actually like seaweed. So, and also that salt actually feels about right. I barely even notice it. So, anyways, that's the chocolate mix. This is basically, you could live off of this. This could be the only thing that you eat, right? And it's going to store pretty well as long as you make sure you're storing it with in low heat, low oxygen, that type of stuff. And basically whenever you're ready to eat it, you just add water. So this is great for a situation where you're doing a long hike. Like I would like to sometime hike the Pacific Crest Trail, which is a very long trail, and having something like this is going to be really helpful. Make my life a lot easier. So I carry it in a dry sack. And this is just a bag normally used for storing stuff for backpacking, like socks and stuff like that, where you can then roll it up, and it's not going to, if it gets wet, it's not going to soak through, okay? So basically a very light container, and I will pour this into here, and this can actually hold a huge amount of food, okay? So like filling this bag up to the top is like at least 2 weeks of use, if not more. So and it's not very heavy for the amount of food that you get out of it. So anyways, that's the recipe. You can find that on my gear page, and I hope that's useful. Of course, it will change over time. The recipe will be written below on the website, on the page for this video. Though again, the recipe changes, so keep that in mind. What you see there now, if you're seeing this in the future, may not be what I'm currently doing, but just experiment and find something that you like. And as big changes happen, I'll keep you guys up to date. So hope that's useful, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later.